Hello and welcome to Hands-On Archives, where we take a brief close-up look at records in our collection, talk about their physical qualities, their provenance, and their content. Today we're going to take a look at some postcards from the Marion County Children's Guardians Home. The Guardians Home was founded in the 1890s and was open up until 2009. It was not strictly an orphanage. It was actually part of the state's very first programs that would remove kids from abusive, extremely neglectful, or abandoned homes and put them into state's care. So the children there were largely removed by court order from their families. Often they were very grateful to have a reprieve. Most of these postcards are addressed to Miss Loeta Trook, who was the superintendent of the Guardians Home from the 1900s to the 1930s. She did keep up correspondence with a lot of the students or the kids who passed through there, and they corresponded back to her. So these are interesting from their actual content as far as the written content on the back, but especially for a brief video like this, we're going to be taking a look a lot more at the visual content at the front. These are very interesting artifacts of their time period. So here, we're going to start with a stack of holiday cards here. Most of these these are all generally kept in sleeves like this to avoid, as much degradation as possible. But they do create quite a bit of glare on the camera here. So I've removed a selection of cards from their sleeves so we can look through them here. So here is a New Year's card. And then we can see, of course, everything is on cursive on the back. Can be a little hard to decipher, especially since everyone is trying to bunch up their writing in their little space there too. Here's a very cute Valentine's Day card. This one not sent through the mail, just delivered it from mother. Another Valentine's Day card. A lot of them have very elaborate or detailed art on them. Postcards, of course, were used a lot more commonly in this time period. They were a quick way, especially when you arrived at a new place, to let people know that you'd arrived. You would often find a rack of them for sale at whatever station you arrived at, and you could shoot them out right there. You'll see, you can see too that the postage stamp rate is still reduced, but at this point it is just 1 cent to send a postage card. Or to send a postcard. There's a lot of Dutch imagery on a lot of these cards, and some of them don't have any address. They would have been probably accompanying a package or another letter, but they don't have any address information. There are quite a few Easter cards. Easter greetings. Of course, the Easter cards not having this is before the sort of commonplace of the Easter bunny. So you see a lot of spring imagery and a lot of religious imagery with Easter, but not so much the bunnies and eggs that you would get in the latter half of the 20th century. This is actually the sole Halloween card in the entire collection. Obviously, Halloween cards then and now, not a huge business. But it is interesting to me to see the black cat and the pumpkin already being associated with the concept of Halloween. In so we can find a date. No obvious date on this one. Most likely 19 teens. Here are some Thanksgiving cards. One of the things I noticed that was interesting about the Thanksgiving cards in here is that there's a lot of patriotic imagery or messaging. Which does make sense. It is a holiday based on U.S. history. However, with the emphasis on the turkey and leaves and such in modern times, it is kind of unusual to see, for instance, this child in patriotic regalia on top of a turkey. And then this is actually the oldest dated card in the set, this Christmas card here. This is from 1911. Does have, the postmark there, 1911. And then a lot of these, one of the reasons besides, their general condition and age and everything that we keep them in the sleeves is that a lot of these will have very heavy embossing, or they'll actually have mixed media elements as part of the card. So keeping them in a sleeve and keeping them from rubbing up against the other cards can help preserve those sorts of things. And I mentioned, as I showed there, and we have it over here as well, this Marion, Indiana card, and a more Dutch imagery, and with a bit of three-dimensional attachment there. So a lot of these are location cards. So here is the high school in Lebanon, Indiana at the time. This would be postmark. Looks like 1917, I think, maybe 1914 on the postmark there. Here is the Greenfield High School, the 1913. And of course, they aren't all from Indiana. This one is the City Hall and County Building in Chicago. Coming from Chicago there. This one of the later cards in 1936 there. And here is Union Station in Indianapolis, 1914. The Fountains in the Sunken Gardens in Garfield Park in Indianapolis, 1920. Turkey Run, 1932. 30th Street and Fall Creek Bridge in Indianapolis, 1913. Fountain in Woodruff Place, 1917. And this is one thing I definitely wanted to show because of the particular way that it's degraded. So most of these don't have, even the photo quality ones haven't really degraded like photos, because they're typically prints that have been put onto the cards. This one appears to have actually been printed as a photo and glued to this card. And because of the silver they used to develop photos at the time, depending on the angle I hold this at, you might see it quite clearly. And then, let's see here. Let's see if I can show. Yeah, you can see the effect here. If you hold this at just the wrong angle, it will totally silver out the entire photo. If you hold it at a different angle, it looks okay. So that is actually, most likely this was in contact with or very near to a highly acidic paper, and that acidity pulled the silver essentially up to the surface of the photo. So that's why you get this silvering effect. And really, unfortunately, there's not really much of a way to undo this. We could, of course, when digitizing this, fix a lot of this in the digital copy, but there's really no way to undo the physical effect. The way you can prevent this in the first place is, again, using the sleeves and keeping it out of contact with more acidic paper. So that's all I have for you today. We'll be back next time with a new record.